step one is back off. When we are in stressful situations, pretty much any situation where we're having issues figuring out what's going on, or we feel threatened, or we feel victimized, or we just feel like crap, or even just feeling depressed, so often it's because we're just too close to what's going on. And like if you when you're in an argument with somebody and when things are getting heated, you sort of find yourself moving in and moving in and moving in and moving in, and that's it's what we do. We get closer because we're trying to figure it out, and so we get into it when really what we need to do is step back and get a little perspective on the situation. Step two is breathe. When you talk about stress and all these other emotional and psychological issues that so many people have, a lot of times the first thing people tell you, breathe, count to 10, all that stuff. Absolutely. But if you don't back off first, if you don't give yourself some space from the situation, it's really hard to breathe. If somebody's up in your face, you can't breathe. So that's why for this process, backing off is so important. And a lot of people will ask, well, if you're in the middle of it, how do you back off? And the answer to that is very simple. You wait till later. Because whatever situation you're in, your boss is yelling at you, you're having issues with your kids or your partner, or whatever the situation is, more often than not, these are recurring situations. If your boss yells at you every day, don't worry, he's going to yell at you tomorrow too. So the back off aspect of it doesn't have to be in the exact moment, but ideally it is, but it doesn't have to be. So you can, once that specific situation dies down and you move on, then you can go home, and that's your backing off. As long as you're out of the situation, you've backed off, and now you can breathe, and now you can go into step 3, which is conscious thought. And here's the sticking point. I'm glad you guys are having fun. People laughing, I love it. Conscious thought is where we falter more often than not, because we are part of the animal kingdom. Yes, we're evolved and we're intelligent, and big whoop, we feel. We are emotional beings. We are living aspects of the animal kingdom, and so we have these instincts that are built in, the survival instincts, fight or flight. So we use those, and when we get stressed, we go into fight or flight mode. And so we're either going to run away completely and shut down, or we're going to go in guns a-blazing, and it becomes this, big uproar thing. Because we're not thinking. When you can breathe, when you have a little space and you can breathe, then you can actually think coherently, intelligently, and calmly about what the situation is, and you can really take the time to assess it and look at it from different perspectives. And then step 4 is conscious action. Right, Mary? This is what I'm telling you. So it leads into the conscious action, whereas before we're going instinctively, and so somebody comes at us and we go right back at them because we're protecting ourselves, or we run away because we're protecting ourselves. Excellent, Anna. Exactly. Yeah, you're not going to be an expert at any of this right off the bat. So you take little steps when you're backing off. And then it becomes easier and easier and easier. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. So we are retraining ourselves to think more consciously, to be more conscious, to be more present in our lives, instead of spending the whole time reacting to what's going on, reacting to the fear-based news, where it's all about fire and famine and murder and rape and horror, 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 horror is all they talk about. The government, puts out stuff that keeps us scared, until we get too scared, and then there's a little uproar, and then they dial it back, and then they go, oh no, the economy is improving, so that we get lulled into that sense of comfort and contentment, and then there's not an uprising. Dogs and cats living together, exactly. So that's what's happening, and where it translates into our teachers and our parents is that's what they learned. It's not that they're doing it on purpose to try and keep us under their thumb, although we've all met people who do try to keep us controlled and try to keep us staying in that state of fear. But now, with these tools, we're going to get a little smarter about it, and we're going to recognize it when it's happening to us, when people are trying to manipulate us. Just reading what Ken's writing, if everyone stopped playing their game, their house of cards would collapse overnight. Absolutely. Theoretically, it really is that simple. But what happens is, and there is some relevance to what the government talks about, when you do big change, it can collapse the economy. It can collapse the entire system, which ultimately is really what we need. But if it happens too fast, then it creates such mayhem that there's no way of making it a smooth transition. So the idea is to... Oh yeah, okay. I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, Ruth was making the point of saying, yeah, the whole Mayan calendar leap year thing was one of the fear factors, one of the fear elements that they were trying to instill in us. So, it's part of the thing. So even in the spiritual world, they're saying they're putting these things out there and trying to make it this huge fear-based thing, which sells a lot of books and sells a lot of programs and all that other stuff. So that's how it all works, and we're in a way we're victims of it, but we're also co-conspirators in it because we participate, we go ahead with it. There's a lot of talk about like Monsanto and their genetic seeds and all this stuff. Well, if we just stop buying it, they would go away. But we need to eat, and they make it convenient, and it's too much trouble to have to go to the well to get our water when we can get it in bottles. So, we become complacent and lazy and all that other stuff that comes with being an advanced society. So there's good aspects of it, and then there's other aspects of it that put us in a position where our strength becomes our weakness. If you understand what I'm saying there. So from a day-to-day interpersonal relationship kind of situation in our lives, when we come up against whatever issues are in our lives, the best way to approach it is calmly and coolly and thinking about what the situations are, looking at it from all sorts of different perspectives, making decisions that are based on that kind of process of taking the time to understand what the situation is, taking the time to understand how we are reacting and why we're reacting, taking time to understand how the other person why they're doing what they're doing, and then making informed choices on how we approach and how we take the next bit of action. So hopefully that's making sense to everybody so far. All right, excellent. So that is the core of everything. It's just 4 basic steps: back off, breathe, conscious thought, and conscious action. And as you think about this stuff, and I kept it in 4 steps specifically so that it would be so easy to remember when you're in the middle of these stressful situations. Because there's so many other great tools out there that you can learn. And I've watched so much stuff, about how to deal with people and how to approach things and all that. But when you're in the middle of the heated conversation or the heightened emotion, then it's virtually impossible to put a lot of those tools into play. So this is specifically designed so that at a minimum, if all you remember is back off, that is going to reduce so much of the stress in your life. Okay, Anna, you'll find yourself avoiding negative people. Absolutely. And how cool is that? But it doesn't stop there. And I spent years doing that. I just simply, negative people need help. Absolutely. But it's not necessarily our job to help them. We can help negative people by not engaging in their negativity. That doesn't mean that we shut them down. It doesn't mean that we run away from them. We just don't have to engage their negative thoughts. It takes the wind right out of them. So that's actually part of the things that we are going to train ourselves to deal with, and that ends up being sort of an advanced thing. Don't enable the negativity, right? So when you find yourselves in these situations, you take that step. You avoid the negative parts that will drain you. Yeah, you can avoid them, but more importantly, I'm all for avoiding them in the beginning. But ultimately, you want to learn how to deal with them, not just by avoidance. Because what ends up happening is we're all negative at one point or another. And so if all you do is try to avoid it, then you're backing off so far that you're pulling yourself out of society. And you're not, you end up throwing your friends away and throwing your family away because, let's face it, you end up throwing yourself away because we all go through negative space. Yeah, Kathy, it's absolutely part of it. Yeah, is learning the lessons, and so hopefully what we're going to learn tonight is sort of how to deal with these situations a little better. So, but again, the core of it. So let me just kind of quick recap here. So the 4 steps basically: back off, breathe, conscious thought, conscious action. So what I was right. So if all you can do is back off and give yourself the space to breathe in the middle of a thing, that's awesome. So that is what I want everybody to be working on right now, and over the next couple of days. Just work on that aspect of it, allowing yourself that space. So if somebody, especially if you have repeat offenders in this, whether it's your boss, your mother, your spouse, some negative friend that you have that just keeps coming at you, give yourself some space. Just let them know, you know what, I'm not dealing with this right now. I'll get back to you later. And remove yourself from the situation. Give yourself time to breathe and assess. So if you've got something like that going on a continuing basis, whether with your boss or your spouse or just somebody in your life who keeps you in that space, keeps themselves in that space of negativity, and they keep coming at you and don't give you that room to breathe, when you're away from them, when you've backed off, just think about it. What are they going through? Have some compassion for them, which doesn't mean condoning what they're doing, and it doesn't mean enabling what they're doing, as we were talking about earlier. We're just talking about observing. That's all. Oh, okay. This person most likely feels threatened. That's why people in general react in those negative ways, because they feel threatened, and they are in that survival instinct. They're dealing in fight or flight. They're dealing in, kill or be killed. So they create all that tension and negativity as this sort of force field to keep people away from them. And it works. So when you can approach it from that angle and just understand where they're coming from, walk a mile in their moccasins, so to speak, it just gives you that different perspective. Because when they're coming at you, you go into that immediate response mode, then you're just mirroring what they're doing, and then communication shuts down. Okay? So that's actually sort of tool number one. There are 10 tools, and I call them tools, games, and new perspectives that allow you to sort of play with this as you're dealing in step 3, the conscious choice area, where you're assessing the situation and deciding how you are going to go forward with whatever this situation is. And the good news is it does get easier and easier the more you do it, so you're more likely to be able to make faster choices in the moments without having to withdraw and go home and sleep on it for a day or a week or a couple of months, whatever. So the first tool is